If you're a big swim team and you like to order a lot of gear, maybe you ought to check out Swim Outlet Team Division for these reasons. Swim teams receive a 10% discount on bulk orders. Swim teams or organizations get an 8% commission on referred sales. You'll also like their customization services, which is affordable and available at all times during the year for all team gear. With over 50,000 items in stock, you can get most anything you want. Swim Outlet Team Division. You need to try it out. You'll be glad you did.
This is the Morning Swim Show for Tuesday, January 7th, 2014. I'm your host, Jeff Cummings. There are a lot of stories in the swimming community to be told, probably many more than anyone can ever tell. Ian McAllister uncovered one of those stories and is sharing them with the world in his new book called Lost Olympics. The book tells the story of Hilda James, who started life not wanting to learn to swim, but eventually won an Olympic swimming medal representing Great Britain. There is much more to James's life than that Olympic medal, and to tell us about some of those things is McAllister, who joins us from his home in the Finis Monitor from southern England in Poole. Ian, it's good to see you. How are you?
Good morning, Jeff. Very well, thank you.
I'm doing well. I see you there. You got the book off to your left shoulder there. You got some things out there behind you that are memorabilia from Hilda's life. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but. A lot of people that are watching this show are probably wondering, of all the stories to tell, why did you pick Hilda James? And obviously you have a good reason. So tell us the connection that you have with Hilda.
I do. Hilda was my grandmother, and towards the end of her life, she lived with us. And from the time when I was about 12, she started telling me about the story of her life. And it just took a very long time to get her to tell all of it. Because there were things she didn't really want to discuss and that she thought were pretty personal and needed leaving out. But in the end, I managed to persuade her to give it all to me.
Well, it's very impressive. Now, she died in 1982, so how much of of what you were able to get from her life was she able to tell you personally?
I was left with all sorts of bits of paper. She actually started in the end keeping notes for me, a lot of which I didn't have until after she died. And there was things on bits of paper and shopping bags and also just little tiny one-line notes. And the main problem was putting it all together in a timeline. So as soon as she died, I carried on the project by interviewing all the old people that were still around, swimmers, coaches, people locally, family. And then it sort of all went dead for about 20 years probably. And then I came to the internet, and you can then fill in all the gaps. And you can contact people in, far-flung places and actually ask the question. And it all started to come together quite suddenly, really.
So how did it come about where you said to yourself, this is going to be a book?
My wife and I were on a cruise with my mum. And I had taken some memorabilia because, as you see from the cover of the book, she cruised with Cunard. She was one of the first Cunard celebrity sports stars on the cruise ships, and her ship was Corinthia, and the ship we were on, which is Queen Victoria, the Cunard ship, has a Corinthia cafe. So we took some memorabilia along to show the people on the ship, and it was actually the chief engineer, who is a historian himself, who said, "Hey, just go and write it all down, just start writing." My mother is a retired English teacher, and she looked at some of the stuff I'd been writing and said, "Yeah, you're writing a book, so finish it."
Well, nothing like the support of your mother to kind of egg you on to say you can do this.
Yeah, I just kept saying, "Yes, teach."
Well, there are probably a lot, probably enough stories to fill 3 books from your grandmother, but something that I thought that was very interesting was that she was kind of the person who was instrumental in bringing the front crawl, or what we call freestyle, to the United Kingdom after she went to the 1920 Olympics. I mean, I think that makes her a pioneer of the highest regard. I mean, when you introduce a swimming stroke to an entire country, I think that really should have trumped her up, I guess, in the history of the sport in the UK. I mean, people like Rebecca Adlington, I think, should owe her a big debt of gratitude.
I think so. Rebecca and also Sharon Davis, the former British swimming star, has been very supportive over this as well. But it's down to the Americans that Hilda had that stroke, because in 1920 the British relay team were beaten by 30 seconds by the American girls to win gold. And then Hilda went and found the American coach and said, "Hey, that's not good enough. I need to learn this stroke." So she actually learned it from the American coach and manager in the canal in Belgium where the games were held, and then brought it to the UK and introduced it. Just broke a string of records and started on her way to becoming a big star.
Yeah, from what I understand, she had pretty much every freestyle swimming national record in Great Britain at one point.
That's right, from 100 yards up to a mile, she did hold every national record and 6 world records that were confirmed. And obviously, everyone knows that the timing was really difficult in those days, in the early part of the 20th century. And she held probably a dozen unofficial world records, where record times were allowed in the UK as a UK record, British record, but not ratified by FINA, the governing body. But she held several of those UK records several seconds below the official world records at the time.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing, and unfortunately, I guess it's sad that FINA didn't get to recognize it. But very few people in the history of the sport have been able to do that. I mean, we talk about people like Don Fraser and Tracy Calkins who have, held their national records in every freestyle stroke or whatever for years, and we know those people very well. But someone like Hilda James, sad to say, until now, was getting lost in history. I mean, was it something, as she was telling you these stories of her life, why do you think she never really wanted to talk about the successes that she had?
There was difficulties. She came from a deeply religious family who really didn't believe in self-promotion or doing things for gain. I've said this before. What you had was what you had, and that was what you should be content with. So the self-promotion aspect of going out and coming home with trophies and being in the papers, and the success that went with that, went down very badly at home, and they gradually became more and more against her competing. Her coach and her swimming team had to work really hard to keep her just competing. And it just became more and more difficult until she finally had a major split with her parents, and then turned professional with Cunard.
Well, I would imagine that was something that made it very difficult after the 1920 Olympics to be able to continue on and try to go to the 1924 Olympics.
It certainly was, and there was major trouble at home. And of course, in those days, she was 20 when the 1924 Olympics came along, but you were still a minor at 20. You didn't become an adult till you were 21, couldn't make your own decisions. So the minute she was 21, she accepted this long-standing offer from the Cunard shipping line, who were based in Liverpool, where she came from herself, and actually jumped ship at home very acrimoniously, and joined Cunard and went off to become the first cruise hostess on Corinthia, the first purpose-built cruise ship. So she did okay out of it in the end.
Yeah, that I would say that's doing more than okay. She really did parlay her Olympic success as something great. Speaking of which, does her Olympic medals still survive? Do you have that?
It certainly does. I've only seen one other of these, which was at the International Swimming Hall of Fame in Fort Lauderdale this year. That's the silver Olympic medal from 1920. A very rare thing for a lady to have, because there were very few lady competitors in those days.
Right, and this was in the 4x100 freestyle relay, correct?
That's right, yeah. There's another interesting piece here as well. Don't know what I've done with it now. I've got another medal here, which is the competitors' medal from 1920. And everyone who made it to the Olympic Games in Antwerp that year received a medal, same size as the winners' medals, but they're actually made of brass, and they were melted down from shells from the First World War, from spent shells.
Wow, that's very interesting. Let's see that medal again. Obviously, it's something that we don't see every day. Hold it up a little closer to your face so we can see it great in the light. So a little bit further back there.
Bit further back.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting design there. It's something they don't have in the modern medals.
It's embossed, and you see also it doesn't have a ring.
Right.
They were presented in a box, but they were not put around your neck in those days. They were just given to you in your hand in a box.
Well, the whole ceremony of it putting around your neck, I never knew that. I thought that was something that had been going on for many years. Almost
Yeah,
back to
something,
1896.
I don't know when that was introduced.
Well, I think it's still just as important, whether it was around your neck or not. Well, you said that she had really, like you said, parlayed her success into going to the Cunard Cruise Line. I'm curious about something else that went on in her life. Tell me about this Bananagate incident she was involved in.
She was an amateur, so to compete you had to be an amateur. The professionals couldn't compete. So once she turned professional, she could swim in galas, but only in invitation races, and couldn't hold records. There was some question about her amateur status. Now, this still happens now in some places, but she worked in a fruit and vegetable shop, and she was quite adamant that she was the first person who trained on bananas. So, and she would say that she was training on Fife's brand bananas. And there was a placard outside the shop saying, "We sell Fife's bananas," which Hilda James uses for her training. So somebody went to the Swimming Association and said that she was being paid by Fife's and obviously accepting money for it, which was absolutely not allowed. So she knew that this would cause a stir. And at the next gala she appeared at, she knew who had been causing these rumours, or she thought she did, and appeared on the side of the pool because she always used to open the galas doing a trick swimming, a sort of fancy swimming routine before the racing started. That's the measure of how well known she was. And she appeared poolside eating a banana, strolled around finishing her banana, gave the skin to one of the officials, and then announced to the crowd that she would swim like a monkey, and started doing an impression of her great rival, who she thought had started this rumour off. So that didn't go down well at all. There was terrible trouble with the Amateur Swimming Association, and Hilda and her coach were both dragged there to answer for their actions. And it was the only time really that she and her coach ever fell out during the years she was competing.
Wow, one of the early provocateurs of the sport.
Absolutely. She used to introduce a new trick or something topical to do with news into her routine and say something about it, because after that she always thought that she ought to keep her coach guessing, because although he'd been furious, he knew that she was beginning to get herself ready to be free of her parents and the amateur thing, and she needed the guts to go professional and entertain people, and entertain was what she did.
Yeah, I could tell. That was a very entertaining story. Well, of all the things that you learned about your grandmother's life, whether she told you personally or you found out after she passed, what was the most interesting to you?
Just that she didn't get excited about her victories. She held this ideal of not over promoting herself. And I think that stayed with her all those years, that although her parents, were long gone, I had trouble getting her to talk to me about it to start with. And it was just little things she'd come across, and she'd had a hard time doing it, and that she had the guts to carry on and compete.
Yeah, that is pretty special. That's a triumph of the will, if there was ever a true monument to that tale. I understand that in addition to that Olympic medal, you got some other memorabilia. I'd love for you to show those to us.
A couple of small things here. I like this better than the Olympic medal. This is actually the breastplate of her Olympic swimming costume. So this is approaching 100 years old. So it's actually 193 years old now. It's a piece of stitched cotton, and it's the Union Jack flag off the front of the swimming costume that she wore in Antwerp when she won the silver medal. I think that's pretty special.
Oh, definitely is.
And this tiny little medal, which is, I don't know whether you can see that well.
Move it back just there we go.
It's not a precious thing. It's cheap metal. It's from the Indianapolis Athletic Club. Now, Hilda competed in the United States in 1922 on a major tour which was sponsored by the Women's Swimming Association of New York, which was Charlotte Epstein, who first was taught Hilda to swim the crawl with her coach. And she invited Hilda to come and compete in the States. And this medal was won, not by Hilda, it was given to her in exchange for one of hers. This is actually a medal of Johnny Weissmuller's. He obviously was in the first season of his swimming career, and he had just a few weeks before broken the 100 metres world record as the first man to swim under a minute. And Hilda and Johnny exchanged medals, and this is actually one of Johnny Weissmuller's. So Bruce Wygo at the International Swimming Hall of Fame got quite excited about this one when we showed him back in September.
Yeah, I would imagine he would. He loves those kind of really historic medals, even more than, I think even more than Olympic medals, which are very common. Very few people keep medals like that, so I'm sure he got real excited when you told him about that one.
He did. He thinks that the International Swimming Hall of Fame probably has its twin, the one that Hilda gave to Johnny.
So your grandmother's medal,
that will be such a find for me to be able to go and see that.
So your grandmother's medal is the one that's likely in Florida?
I think so, yes.
Well, that is amazing. Know that Hilda James is officially a part of the Swimming Hall of Fame.
Yes, and it has been discussed that Bruce said that it would be nice if we could get her inducted into the Hall of Fame. He likes to pick up missed swimmers sometimes. There are people who are famous for all sorts of records and things, but someone whose piece in history is there for introducing the freestyle stroke to the UK, he thinks should probably be captured at the Hall of Fame. So I'm just hoping that will happen in the fullness of time.
Yeah, I think that definitely does need to get done, and I hope it happens soon. Well, Ian, before we let you go, just like everybody on the Morning Swim Show, we're going to submit you to the final 5. These are 5 questions we ask all of our guests. I'm going to change them up a little bit to suit you. The first question, I know you're not a full-time writer, but do you have what famous person would you love to write about next?
Famous person. The person I would love to meet the most and possibly write about is Joni Mitchell. Of all the music stars that I haven't seen live, Joni is the one I would like to have seen.
That would be a great story. I think a lot of people would love to hear some of her stories be told.
Certainly.
Now, conversely, your full-time job is as an air traffic controller, correct?
That's right.
And also excluding author, what's a career or job you would most like to try?
I'd love to be an interior designer. I'm leaving air traffic control actually on early retirement in September this year. And I'm hoping to get out there and do some interior design.
Well, that would be wonderful. That would be a very big switch in careers, but follow your passion. And on the other side of that, what's a career or job you know you would not like to try?
Anything involving driving. Have you been to the UK?
I have not, but I have heard stories. Next question, who is your favorite author?
My favourite author, a guy called Hal Clement, who was a science fiction writer of the 1960s, another American. And actually my next book project is a hardcore sci-fi in the style of Hal Clement or Isaac Asimov, something like that. So,
oh, looking forward to that. Last question for you, Ian. Where do you like to go for vacation?
My wife and I did a major tour of the West last year, Grand Canyon and Death Valley, and we are actually planning to do that again because we spent too much time in the wrong places and not enough time in the right places. So, and if we get over there again maybe next year, I'll come and visit you and bring you some of these medals to see.
We would love to see that. Everybody here at Swimming World loves to hold pieces of history in our hands and really get a sense of the past and really understand where this sport has come from. So we look forward to that. So hopefully we'll get to see you out here soon.
Excellent.
Well, Ian, thank you so much for sharing the story. Congratulations on the book. Really quick, where can they buy a copy?
It's available on Kindle and from Amazon at the moment.
Okay, Amazon.com, that is the place to go. And also you have a Facebook page, so we'll make sure that people go there and learn more about everything you've been doing since the publication.
There's all sorts of links on the Facebook page to, I did a piece for TV and radio on the BBC here in the UK, so that's all up there.
Well, that's great. That's really good to hear that you're getting all that promotion out there. So Ian, thanks so much again, and hope to see you out here in Arizona soon.
You can count on it. Thanks very much, Jeff. Nice to meet you.
You too. All right, and we hope you enjoyed today's edition of the Morning Swim Show. You can find all of our past episodes on swimmingworld.tv and the latest swimming news on swimmingworld.com. I'm Jeff Cummings. Thanks for watching.